Well, thank you back, thank you and welcome back to the 905 podcast, Laura Steiner of the Milton Reporter. We're recording this the Friday after the Milton by-election, where Zee Hamid was elected pretty definitively as the PC MPP now from Milton. And as we said in our intro, we want to talk about the Doug Ford's announcement of the 413, how shovels are going to get in the ground for 2025, and how whether or not that was a factor in this election, was it not, and just how welcome is this announcement going forward? There's a lot of things in the air. We're going to try and cut through it. We're going to try and get to what's actually going on. Laura, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me again.
Uh, so the Doug Ford, prior to the actual election, makes the announcement 2025 expects shovels in the ground to build the Highway 413 that he's been promising since he was first elected way back in the day. The end of the highway is in Milton, and this issue has always been kind of in. We found it to be very muddied waters. Doug Ford seems to think people want it. My take is that's not so clear. As somebody who's got their ear to the grindstone in Milton, what are people's perceptions of this project, and maybe how does that impact how the election happened last night?
Well, it's a fair characterization to say it's not immediately clear. I do know that I've been having conversations that end. I do know that the 413 is linked with also the fate of the expansion of the Campbellville quarry, and I think if you're linking those two, it's not it's unpopular. It's very unpopular. And also the whole, like, it's gonna back traffic up the 401 through this area isn't that great as it is right now. There's crashes along that stretch from from like Trafalgar through to 25 Highway, even pretty regular, actually right through to Guelph line pretty regularly. So just adding up more traffic and more resources just might not be the greatest idea. Personally, I think it's just as likely to be linked to the recent decision on the CN intermodal, which basically the federal court said take it back to cabinet. Cabinet failed to take into account the health certain things they should have thought of, basically, including health and transportation and all that. And I think personally, I think approval of the 413 is kind of a compensation almost for
Well,
losing that a little bit.
well, I mean, the 413 is kind of going ahead because apparently a deal was reached between the federal government and the provincial government
Yeah.
on the environmental impact assessment. However, Stephen Guilbeault, the Minister of the Environment for the federal Liberals, has said that there were certain core challenges that were not going to hold up. So this was a way of them to keep the pressure on, so that endangered species or species at risk were going to be protected if this was built out. But there's no definitive, like, no, it's not going to be, the federal government is going to block this construction. The Ford government is acting like this is going ahead and that it's welcome. The Milton City Council Milton Town Council, sorry, seems to be very mixed about it. Like I've asked you many times about this, and I keep coming back to this. What does Milton Town Council actually want to see happen with the 413? Because it seemed to be, we want it, we don't want it, we want it certain days, we just don't want others. What
A bit
do they
of a
want?
it's a bit of a puzzle. There's um there's uh, there's There's obviously, I think there's probably counselors who want it. I think it's divided, it would be fair to say. There's some counselors that want it, others who see um, others who see sort of the damage it can do, I guess. Like, um, but yeah, I think I remember talking about it on this podcast before about a vote that basically ended up Milton Council confirming a negative, uh, confirming their support for a resolution passed by Halton Council against the 413.
Mhm.
So that sort of started off the muddiness of it, and I I have no real read on it right now, but I do
S
know the mayor obviously is a known conservative, so but then again, I keep going back to it. Then again, the quarry expansion. The council has been like Zee Hamid has sat on that council and voted against, and they voted unanimously against the quarry.
And for
So
anybody listening who doesn't know
it's
this,
to
I
do with
mean,
the gravel,
yeah,
either
gravel is
used for
overwhelmingly used to build roads. That's the main use for gravel, or certain types of gravel, certainly.
certain types of
Um,
gravel. And so I'm like I said, the conversations I've had have ended with, well, where do you think they're gonna put the gravel used to build the 413?
yeah,
So that's kind of, I when you link the high, and I think it's also a pretty high profile, it's fair to say all of the land drama going on with surrounding financing surrounding the PCs
Mhm.
as well along that stretch that they're getting ready to buy the land, I think is the latest,
Mhm.
correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, there I can't keep up with all the scandals of who bought land close by to this project that they're hoping to turn into housing developments or strip malls or whatever have you. Um, I do want to ask you though, as somebody who was covering the by-election a little bit more detail than we were able to, did this come up at all at the doors? Do you know, like this? I know Doug Ford has been going off on let's build the 413 like it's his raison d'etre, but does this actually come up at the doors where people actually say like we need this built because we need to get to the 400 that much faster than we already can?
uh to be honest, I think transit was more of a thing because it's been a perpetual problem in Milton forever, it feels like. And
which
Right.
begs the question: why the hell did the Conservative just win? You know, is it that
well,
the announcements that were made about Go Transit, or there's something else? I mean,
I'm
why
I'm
does
not
he
sure.
win? Why does Zee Hamid win seemingly pretty comfortably?
There was um there was like, I think there was only something like 27-28% turnout. And I've been talking to a few conservatives along the way through the by-election, and some of them, like, the choice of him as candidate really polarized party supporters. Like, I would be in conversation, I'd find myself in conversations with people who just who were just saying, I've voted conservative a lot. I don't know if I can do it this time.
And
And
my feeling is that Zee Hamid is exactly the kind of candidate that a old school progressive conservative party absolutely should have running for them, but is not the kind of candidate that the modern PC party or any of the conservatives in the party ever go after, because he's anathema to their membership. But unless he's a completely different person from the person I thought he was. But then again, he's running for the PCs, so I'm already kind
he's
of dumbfounded by the whole
yeah,
thing.
that's also, so there's the voter turnout, which was pretty low. And there's also I think there's also there's also his own community. So let's be blunt about it. There are demographically, there's a significant Muslim population in Milton, and I've talked to a few people as well, and I heard there was a lot of hurt, a lot of anger, a lot of betrayal at his decision, because traditionally, of course, the immigrants vote liberal, right? And I don't think that's not too
I
off
don't
the
know.
mark to say.
I don't know. I'd
And
have to look at the people representing Brampton and Mississauga and
yeah,
other 905 regions right now. They're all conservative, right? And those. I'm not
so
sure if
I
that's really
think
holds anymore.
when you start looking at it that way, I think I think he probably kept enough. He probably kept enough of the traditional conservative backers. Lisa Raitt has a lot of supporters. Mayor Krantz, and there's somebody else and some of the local councilors have a lot of support. It's possible he kept a lot of that traditional progressive conservative base, as well as enough of his own community to sort of bridge that gap and to squeak through.
I mean, we're a good way into the second term of this government. We've talked about scandals, we've talked about policies that are being pursued that seem at odds with 905 region priorities in terms of housing and things like that. And yet, in a real sort of opportunity to stick it to the government, the electorate has either failed to turn out at all, or voted comfortably a PC candidate. I mean, this is terrible, terrible, terrible news for the Liberals, isn't it? Unless I'm missing something.
In some ways, yes, because I've also heard it that Galen, full disclosure, I've known Galen on a personal level as well, and I've heard it said that he's like this. He wasn't the first choice, anyway, and as I think we've already talked about, but as the campaign as the campaign moved on, progressed, I think he got stronger as a candidate. And I think if you give it, I think possibly even if you give it like the normal length of a campaign, then we might be talking about why Galen won right now. So,
Well, but let's talk about, the future of Milton in the 905 going forward now. Clearly Doug Ford is taking this as a sign of approval from the voters. People like what he's doing. They like his direction and what he's doing. So I think we can safely say he'll double down on whatever plans he has in store, including, I just want to bring back to this 413 matter, because if he does get shovels in the ground by 2025, that's still a year out from a general election in Ontario. How this we putting a theory into practice, into reality, and we actually start seeing like the rural parts of the province being chewed up, being bought out, paved over for this highway. That at best we say it's mixed, whether or not it's wanted or not. How is Zee going to be able to defend that? Because he's going to go back to the people and say, yeah, like as you said, the quarry is going to be used to fuel the construction of this project, and I don't get that there's an overwhelming consensus that people actually want this. I know that the Tories want it, the PCs want it, and their backers want it, but the general populace, I think it's muddied on whether or not they actually want this or not. I do not hear a huge passionate outcry of, give us this 413, Doug.
no, it's not. Like I said, I think if you put that up against Go Transit and all day go service, get me to Toronto for a Blue Jays game that starts at 7 tonight, and bring me home safe by 11:30, versus I'm gonna save 30 seconds on the 413, you're probably gonna get more that say, I want the transit, right?
Right. Right.
I
Because
mean,
probably because a lot of it is we can't see the 413 yet. It hasn't been built. Nobody's used it.
I mean,
So, and there's also enough, there's also enough question if people, there's also enough question that of whether it will save time, or will it just clog all our roads again, or will there, you know,
is it
will
really
there
even a
be
question?
more truck
It's
traffic?
the only
Because
people who want the road are developers. There's been no public call for it. There was no public desire. There still is no great public desire. Even in places like Milton that will be directly affected with it and on whose doorstep it will be, even their feeling is at most kind of ambiguous. And despite that, despite the government that's pursuing policies that have nothing in common with what actually people are talking about in Milton, despite that, they still win an election after 6 years of this government, after scandals, after corruption, after everything that's happened, they still win an election comfortably. Now, I'm not saying that to criticize the PCs. They're doing whatever they're doing, it's working. I am saying it to criticize the opposition parties that, this brand new, shiny new savior of a liberal leader, Bonnie Crombie, the great one, who was like so obviously the best person to lead the party, cannot win Milton right on the doorstep of her own former riding. Right on the doorstep of her where she was just mayor. She can't win there. Where the hell can she win? And Galen was a decent candidate, maybe not, not much local familiarity, for sure. Like he's a party insider. Party members will know him. People who've been involved in the community will know him, but general members of the public is like, who the hell is this guy? So you're fighting that. And Zee had a bit more face recognition than that for sure, particularly after running for mayor. But still, it's embarrassing that after 6 years, in the middle of a term of a government that has made every mistake it could possibly make, they can't even run the guy close. What the hell? This is a disaster.
Know, it's crazy. It's a little crazy, but I honestly, I was sort of hoping they wouldn't pick Crombie, because I don't like, with the by-election, the length it was, I had some reservations about whether she would really be able
I had
to. There's a
reservations
lot of
about whether
complex
she should
issues in
win.
rural area.
I thought from her perspective, she should run because she should have the confidence in her own. She's told us she's the savior. She's right on her own doorstep. She's in her own neighborhood. Okay, Milton's not Mississauga, I know, but still, it's just absolutely core 905 kind of stuff. So yeah, maybe there would have been stuff, but she's got name recognition that no one else has got, and that's so important in these by-elections. And I just think she should have had the confidence in herself that she should have run. But to run someone else and lose, it's humiliating. I mean, it should be bigger news in the papers, just as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it should be a little more. I wonder if there's any, like, I don't have, well, they don't really have anybody else that could take that leadership right now. So
no, I mean, she's going to run the election, and she's going to have a kick at the can. But it's like, seriously, can none of the opposition parties find anybody who can land a punch on Doug Ford, a guy who pretty much punches himself in the face most days?
the Green Party and the NDP, it looked, the Green Party and the NDP were pretty.
Where were the NDP in this election? Now, if the NDP are going to win, they need to be taking 905 ridings. Where were the NDP in this election? What did they get?
And Milton has never been an NDP town that I can remember.
No, nowhere apart from
they need to change that.
and a few other places.
But the NDP do need to change that. They need to go into the Miltons, the Mississaugas, the Burlingtons, and the Durhams, and all that, and say we're a contender. And because, yeah, like Roland and I are of two minds on this. they need, if they want to win the big job, the government, they need to win Milton and ridings like it. And
You've got to win Milton. You've got to win
yeah,
Oakville. You've got to win Burlington. You've got to win you got to win in Mississauga. You've got to win in Brampton. You've got to win those suburban ridings. The NDP and the Liberals will get their seats in Toronto. They'll get them in Hamilton. The PCs will get all their rural seats. The seats that swing are all the 905 seats in the, excluding kind of Hamilton, those suburban new communities, the car-centric ridings, or the car-built ridings, I should maybe say. You can't form a government without them. Like even the federal government can't form a government without them. So God knows that the provincial parties have to. And to be at this stage of a second-term government and not be able to win a seat comfortably is appalling. And for a new leader of the Liberal Party, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's very confusing to me what the hell they think they're doing.
It could be apathy too. Like, I think there probably was...
It's the opposition's job to overcome that apathy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's probably a fair bit of, and maybe the Liberals did get caught in a bit of the backlash against the party change by Zee. I don't know.
Like the party change, like the leadership change, or
no, from when Zee changed from Liberal to Progressive Conservative. I know for me, it was, as a voter, it was a sticking point. It was like, wow, I got whiplash from that. And I don't know how, and it's like, how and why, especially when you have like a Mike Cluett sitting there, almost the perfect candidate for the Progressive Conservatives with the public backing.
I mean, in some ways, I think it was a masterstroke for the PCs to get Zee to run for them in terms of winning the seat. The question is, how do their own members feel about it, given that he doesn't fit, or all his prior track record suggests he doesn't fit in that party. So yeah, it may turn out to be a curse in the future.
Can I just interject there with my theory? Like, maybe that's the point, right? Zee softens the rougher edges of the PC party, right? If you're a party that says, well, we can attract somebody like Zee to come run for us, then those red Tories that might normally vote for the Liberals are waiting to vote for the Liberals, and I said, well, okay, maybe I can give Doug Ford and them another shot. That's why you want somebody like Zee to run. I question, how happy is Zee going to be in the backbenches of the Tory caucus, having to now go and say, well, now he's going to be the defender of the 413. That's the thing. Like,
yeah.
They're going to bring him out to say, you got to defend this in Milton. You got to win over people, and you got to quiet the rural vote that's going to be pissed off when we start paving over their farmland or start digging up this quarry. Your job is now to go and quiet down the peasants
and tell people they're going to lose their houses. And
yes,
which I have heard will probably happen because of that.
Right. And so how much fun is it going to be for Zee to be the one who has to go to you and I, who you as a Milton reporter, Laura, ourselves on the 905er, the Post, and say, yeah, you're taking away farmland, in some cases generational farmland from farmers, to pave a highway that no one really wants, digging up quarry rock that people are, that's a mixed desire in itself. It's
gonna endanger the water for, I think, 20,000 residents.
Well, yeah, that's a hard sell. That's gonna be that's a hard sell for a politician to make. Yeah, and I wonder, like, how happy is he gonna be now being Doug Ford's kind of poster boy for the Tory brand?
That's the big question I have too. Is, okay, so you're doing this, which was first you're switching parties, which was a massively unpopular decision among a lot of people.
Mhm.
And then you have to go and explain why, first explain why a project that, while maybe likely few people really actually want in the 413, and you have to be the face of a project that you yourself voted against as a municipal
Right.
councillor. How does that, is that really what you signed off with, up with? And the second thing is, I've been hearing in the last week or so, I'm gonna assume here for running. This is only rumored, and I'm gonna assume it's because he A, crossed the floor, and B, he ran as a, and one as a PC. Heard rumors of a cabinet post. So,
I mean, he's a talented guy. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
it's
oh
like
yeah, he is a talented guy,
he
but
should
I've heard
be.
transportation,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that's probably, I
Yeah.
mean, he would have to work as, like, you would, a transportation minister, you have to work in this riding, more
Yeah.
or less, because of the transit, because you have to now be the face of these two unpopular policies.
But
Mhm.
can he sell it? And like, because
I
that's
don't think you can sell it.
well, that's what
I really,
I just don't see a
like,
consensus for this project. That's the thing. I don't see a groundswell of grassroots support that say, yeah, we really need this. Especially, you're right, in line of people want better transit in and out of Toronto and around the 905, not just on
yeah,
highways.
that as well.
The need for greater investment in healthcare, and in education. We need more teachers and staff in our schools. Like, is the priority of the 413 being built really high on Joe and Jane Front Porch's agenda?
No. And for another, and it's actually, oddly enough, it's actually kind of the whole land use issue, like the way the community is being expanded and built out so quickly. The like, where are you gonna put all these people?
Yeah,
It's sprawl, like, it's really,
which was
oh,
another thing that kind of got
you
me
leave
about
that out.
Z. When we
Sorry?
had
So you
when
said
we
something there, Laura?
Yeah, my phone's ringing.
Oh,
oh
okay. No, so it's fine. You can't hear it here at this end.
yeah. Okay, yeah. When we had Z on, when he ran for the mayor of Milton, we had him on, and he was talking. He explicitly said the need for Milton to go up, to intensify. And you're right. So if we're building the 413, the entire theory behind it is sprawl. We need just going to spread out. These developers want people to buy homes in the land along this corridor now. That's sprawl. Like, I don't see either. Z's going to have to eat his pride and just go along with it, or he was just never that progressive to begin with. I guess time will tell which one will come to the front, but
There's also, and a part of me has thought of this, there's also this idea that he didn't do it out of, like, he didn't switch parties out of sort of, he had a change of heart, which he's trying to sell everybody on, and I'm not really buying, but he did it because he wanted power, pure and some, like, he did it because he lost his mayor. He lost, did he lose
I
it?
mean,
I can't remember. I don't think
did
he lost. Anyway, he lost his mayor.
did he? I mean, did he
So,
get?
and he lost all the nominations. It's what he could get.
Well, as I say, like, if did he basically get the message from the party that the party didn't want him? From the Liberal Party, the Ontario Liberals, did they basically the message come down from the Ontario Liberals? You're not running for us, because those messages are sent all the time to people. It's not necessarily put in so many words, but people pick up what's being sent to them. Did he get? Because if that was the case, then they were they were idiots. Again, it's like fine. If the leader of the party is going to run in the riding, then any other party member will kind of say, oh, well, fair enough, right? It's the leader. But if he was getting messages that, the Ontario Liberals don't want you, well, he's a guy with ambition. Clearly, he's a guy with
Yeah.
ambition and talent. He's already battered his head against the wall trying to get gored out, and with some level of success actually, but still nowhere near to actually winning. What are his options if he wants a political career? I mean, you can say it's cynical. I mean, it is kind of cynical, but it's
It
that's
is.
how politics works, right?
Yeah. The other
So,
thing the other thought I just actually had is, does Doug Ford really fit the mold of a traditional party leader?
There's that too.
I mean,
That too.
No, so
that's a
it
good
would kind
point. I
of,
mean, Doug Ford is not an ideological guy. The modern
Yeah.
conservative parties are very ideological. He's not. He just wants to be leader of the province. Like he's a populist, and there's no grounding kind of philosophy behind Doug Ford at all. So yeah, from his point of view, it's like, is he going to win? Yeah, okay, well, let's pick him. I mean, it makes a certain amount of sense, but it's the ideologues within the party, the social conservatives and all the other guys, and the long-time members who are much more signed up to the sort of conservative message than maybe Doug actually is himself. It's gonna risks alienating them, but well, it's going to be interesting to watch what kind of MPP Zee Hamid actually
unfolds.
is.
Well, they're back to work on Monday, right? They're in the legislature.
Well,
Well-
it'll be interesting to see how the next, I guess we have a year and a half, 2 years to go until the next general election. What stamp Z makes on. I'd be curious to see if he brings any change to the Ontario PC party, or if the PC party changes him by the next general election. I'm inclined to say more of the latter, but who knows?
Maybe he crosses the floor on Monday. I guess he could do that.
That would be wild.
Yeah, that would be totally wild.
I don't think that's
Like,
going to
back
happen.
to a by-election, Milton.
Well, it's not even a by-election. He's like,
You
nope.
can
And
do
I'm like,
that.
you
could-
know,
I
Bonnie
don't think
Crombie
that would
walks in, like,
happen,
goes psych, and mic drop, and who knows how that would work. I don't know.
I think it would cause a bit
pretty
of
funny. That's a pretty
yeah.
wild.
I
For
don't
the record, we actually don't think that's going to happen.
no,
But
Yeah,
that's
It's just
legally it's possible.
legally it's
completely
possible.
for
I
someone to
don't
do
really
it.
think it's going to happen. If it did, though, that would just be like, oh wow, okay.
didn't see that coming.
Did not. Well, hey,
yeah.
maybe we just did, but no, I think I think for the next year and a half we're going to see a lot. I think these two elections, the other by-election in Lambton, Kent, Middlesex, kind of just lit a fire underneath Doug Ford to say, okay, everything I'm doing is a-okay. Nobody has any problem with me whatsoever doing what I'm doing. I'm just going to keep on doing it. And I would argue I think it makes the NDP completely irrelevant, which is sad. And the Liberals now need to kind of do a bit of navel gazing and say, like, we can't even win in our own backyard. How, what are we doing here? I mean, I just thought it was interesting.
Another thought I've heard is the carbon tax. People, again, it's the whole thing. It's the whole civics that provincial and federal are different. We know that provincial and federal are different levels of government, but if you think about it, does the actual voter? So
I mean,
they're looking at the federal carbon tax, and they're not
Yeah.
thinking about, okay, who do I vote for in the next federal election? They're thinking, how can I take it out on the Liberals today? Kind of thing.
Yeah, I just look at I always have issues with that excuse, because it just seems then it's up
It's
to
an
Bonnie
easy
Crombie.
excuse,
It's an
is
easy
what it
excuse. I
is.
think it just means that Bonnie Crombie, like, if you're the Liberals and you're able to wear that, and you're going to wear that, it means you don't have a narrative of your own to supplant that. You don't have your own message that says, we're not dealing with the carbon tax. That's not our thing. That's not our jurisdiction. We want to talk about X, Y, and Z, and you drive home that message. The fact that Bonnie Crombie got elected on a message of, I'm going to bring the party to the right. It needs to be more business friendly, et cetera, et cetera. But there is no definitive narrative in the Liberal Party. We know what Doug Ford wants to do. He wants to build a highway, and he wants to, and that's pretty much it right now. He just wants to build a highway. That's a pretty simple message to sell to people, whether you like it or not. But trying to just say, well, Doug Ford's bad, send him a message. People, I think, say, okay, but what's the message that I'm sending? And that's why you're able to Doug Ford's able to say, hey, Bonnie Crombie's the carbon tax queen. And Bonnie Crombie isn't at the microphone to say, no, I'm not, Doug. This is what I'm going to do. It was just a complete failure on the Liberals' part. Like, I just find, I agree, that's probably an issue, but that's when the Liberals need to step up to the microphone and say, no, Doug, this is the story we're telling. This is what we're running this election on. Take it or leave it. And they did it. They completely backed away from the microphone.
I mean,
It'll be interesting to see what they do with the next year and a half too.
They got a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do.
Or 2.5 years.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I feel if you can't win on a ticket of, we're Tories, but we're nicer Tories in Milton, after, like, at a time when every government, you have the best government in the world, midterm is when people send messages to them. If you want to do your protest votes, just nothing. It's like what the Liberals are selling yet again, what they were selling under Del Duca, what they're selling yet again, no one wants. The vast swathe of voters who are on the progressive side are not motivated by that. That's my feeling anyway. I mean, I just, it's like they keep on going after the votes that are the hardest to move. They're going after conservative votes when they should be going after, to be honest, NDP votes, unifying the left, and actually having progressive policies. But, what do I know?
Well, I think that's it for this episode. Laura, great to chat with you again. Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. We'll talk with you folks on the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right.